How we doing, Gacha Gang? Kawaii50 back with another Fake Grand Order video, here to talk about the 4-star assassin I saw a ton of you rolling for, and I was lucky enough to pull myself. That's right, it is Zhongyu's beloved Mei-ren. We're going to be going over Mei-ren's stats, her abilities, some of the best ways you can set her up to be a great member of your team. I'll be upfront with you guys, she's an assassin that needs a little bit of work to become really strong, but I know a lot of you masters out there are willing to put the effort in. And hey, if this video helped you out, be sure to go ahead and like and subscribe for more content. So kicking off this video by looking at Mei-ren's stats, I know gang, there is cause for alarm here. She's got a quick arts buster deck and a buster noble phantasm. Her HP is pretty solid at 13,389, but when we get to the attack stat, I know everyone, your heart begins to sink. At 7,970 attack, she has some of the worst attack of any assassin in the game. It is just abysmal, and this is where we start getting into the fact that we're gonna need to do a little bit of creative thinking to make Mei-ren work, but it is possible. But it is not all bad news on top of that. Her NP per hit at a 0.75%, and her stacked quick and arts deck means that she is able to generate some pretty substantial NP gain, and she'll be able to generate even more with a little help of her Noble Phantasm and the Overkill mechanic. Her star absorption is also pretty solid as well, which means you might be able to fund some stars into those 2 quick cards and that single arts card to help her generate Noble Phantasm that way. Yu's first skill is Incarnated Elemental, rank A. This gives her 5 to 10% of her Noble Phantasm gauge every turn for 5 turns, and also gives her a turn of debuff immunity on a 5-turn cooldown. The debuff immunity is actually going to be a very important part of her kit, because that is what is going to affect her Noble Phantasm. Very important that we consider this. However, gang, that Noble Phantasm gain is still pretty solid. It's going to help you with charging up her Noble Phantasm off of her cards, and this is actually a skill we want to level first in tandem with her second skill. Yu's second skill will eventually be getting an upgrade. That is not the case right now, but it is something to definitely consider. Taoist Winged Sage, rank A+, is the upgraded version that gives her 500 to 1,000 HP every turn for 5 turns. Gives her 3 turns of buff removal resistance, upgraded from the skill's base of 1, and that is at a 50 to 100% chance. And after the upgrade, you're also tacking on a 20 to 30% attack boost, which is crucial for Mei-ren, because that very low attack stat is going to start showing itself, especially in some elongated fights. So level this skill up along with the first skill, and you are going to have a solid NP gain and a solid HP gain on top of that. You'll have buff removal resist on her, you'll have debuff immunity for a turn when you really need it, and you'll be able to up her attack. It's kind of a win-win. And her final skill is Vampirism, rank C. This has a chance to decrease the enemy's Noble Phantasm gauge by 60 to 80% and give her an 18 to 27% NP charge. This is sort of a roundabout way to charge her Noble Phantasm. As you can see in her kit, she's got a lot of ways to charge her Noble Phantasm. Between the quick cards, the arts card, the high NP gain, her first skill, and now this. But you're honestly going to be using this for the charge more often than not, especially in challenge quests, so this is your lowest priority skill, though sometimes you may use the NP gain in a pinch. Yu's powerful Noble Phantasm is Eternal Lament, rank C+. This removes all debuffs from Yu, but also removes all buffs from her. It then deals damage to all enemies at a 300 to 500% damage rate, and also inflicts Curse of 2,000 damage per turn on all enemies for 5 turns. I know that damage seems a little bit low to start with, but activating first before the damage is dealt. You also increases her Buster card effectiveness by 50 to 100% for 1 turn. So you are honestly able to deal a ton of damage with this Noble Phantasm and with the right craft essences. Now, the problem here is the fact that this Noble Phantasm removes buffs. You want to throw as many buffs on her as possible before she Noble Phantasms, and that is what makes Taoist Wing Sage such an important skill. That buff removal resist is going to affect this demerit provided by her Noble Phantasm. It ends up making stuff still a little bit of a gamble, but if you're able to get Taoist Ring Sage to rank 10, well, you're going to have a very solid chance of you being able to retain those buffs while getting a massive Buster buff using her Noble Phantasm. So what do we do with you, Mei-ren, as far as allies? Well, it's difficult. She is a damage-dealing style servant, so we want to give her the support of those damage-dealing Buster-up allies, like, say, Merlin, or Nightingale, or Helena Blavatsky. But the problem is that whenever she uses her Noble Phantasm, which is her biggest source of damage, she is just going to end up stripping all of those buffs her allies give her off of her, and she'll end up making her damage overall pretty mediocre. So who can we pair you with in addition to our support in order to help her deal even more damage? Well, I've got 3 options for you. None of them are out on NA at the time of this video, but they are going to be your best shot when it comes to giving you that buff removal resist without having to sink a ton of stuff into her second skill, though you'll want to do that anyways. And hey, doubling up on these characters, it can really help her deal some overall more consistent damage. So, the first servant I would like to mention is a freebie, and that is Santa Nightingale. Now, the reason I'm mentioning Santa Nightingale is because of her Nurse of Steel Holy Knight rank A. This gives a single ally guts, gives them buff removal resist for 3 turns, and it also increases their NP strength by 20 to 30% for 3 turns. So Santa Nightingale is not only able to give you that buff removal resist, but she also ends up increasing the damage of her Noble Phantasm. You'll just have to make sure you're generating enough stars, because those are definitely going to go to Nightingale when her turn is up. Another servant worth mentioning is definitely the best cook in Chaldea, fighting for Emiya's spot, and that is Beni-Enma. Beni-Enma's Star Basket Small Rank EX skill increases her allies' attack, increases their buff removal resist, NP gauge, and also recovers their HP by 1000. So not only are you going to be healing your consort a little bit, but you are also going to be increasing her attack, which she needs, and increasing her NP gauge on top of the buff removal resist. So it's a nice solid little trade-off. And hey, their star weight is pretty similar, so you're not going to be fighting for stars too much. And finally, I get an opportunity to mention a servant I positively adore, and that is Murasaki Shikibu. Murasaki Shikibu's Diary rank B gives allies buff removal resist plus 100%. Now that's 1 time and it lasts for 3 turns. It also gives your allies the benefit of a 500 to 1000 damage cut and debuff immunity as well. So Murasaki's 3rd skill has the ability to play really well within Yu Mei-ren's overall kit. As far as craft essences for you go, you want your general damage-dealing craft essences. If you're using her to farm for 1 turn and you are confident that the damage she deals is going to be enough to kill your enemies, you can always go ahead and start with a K-Scope. For prolonged fights and for the best opportunity to give her that extra damage that she desperately craves, I've really got to recommend the Black Grail. Because she gets that Buster card effectiveness boost, that intrinsic NP strength boost that she is going to be unable to strip from herself is going to really help out her overall damage. I can't really speak for keeping all of the other buffs on her, but at the bare minimum, you know that this buff is not going away. And since she can recover HP every single turn, well, she can offset the demerit all on her own. Barring any of those, we can always recommend your general damage-focused, 50% charge craft essence, Golden Sumo Boulder Tournament. This is a solid pick. It ups her worst stat, which is her attack, and it should overall help her damage. When it comes to command codes, gang, I really wish I had some sort of buff removal resist command code to recommend for you, Mei-ren, but that unfortunately is not an option. So instead, we've got to go with standard damage dealing command codes. So when it comes to her arts card, go ahead and give her something like Immature Illusionary Command Seal, making sure those stars go to that arts card so she can generate more Noble Phantasm off of a crit. Since she is an assassin, if you want to go ahead and generate more critical stars to ensure that they are going to her when the time comes, you can always go ahead and give her something like Code Glitter. Chucking this on a quick card is a surefire way to boost your overall critical star generation rate. As far as her buster cards go, well, I've honestly got to recommend trying to find new and inventive ways to increase her NP damage, since that is going to be your primary source of damage overall. So, if you really love you, Mei-ren, you can give her Da Vinci-chan, as well as the lower Everyone's Da Vinci-chan. Da Vinci-chan gives a 15% NP damage up. Everyone's Da Vinci-chan only gives NP damage plus 8%, but it gives it to the whole party. You still have to use these cards before the damage is dealt, so you're sort of sacrificing the ability to get damage from that Buster card effectiveness boost, but most of her damage is coming from her Noble Phantasm anyways, so cranking that up as much as possible to get an overkill bonus and refund as much NP as possible is going to be your best bet for high consistent damage. However, in the event you don't want to do that, but you still want to use Black Grail and still want to offset that demerit, you can always give her something like Maiden of Orleans on one of those Buster cards that will recover 1000 HP and basically refund 2 turns of you being equipped with the Black Grail. Overall, gang, Yu Mei-ren's Noble Phantasm is her greatest strength and also her greatest weakness. Because of her low attack stat and because of the Buster up effectiveness boost that her Noble Phantasm gives her, that ends up being her primary source of damage. However, this Noble Phantasm also has the ability to take away all of the buffs that would further increase her damage. And you really need to focus on either building your team around her or really investing deep into her skills as you would a caster in order to make her a strong, viable part of your team. Yu Mei-ren is one of those servants where she can work, but the only conditions where she works is when you completely build your team around her and completely focus your all into making her work. If you love her, gang, if you've been holding on to your gold foes for attack, this is the time to use them. She desperately needs that attack boost, and if you can sink it in there, then who knows, maybe you'll have a very fantastic Yu Mei-ren video that I would be very pleased to watch. I got her myself, but I gotta say, that path is not really for me. But of course, I want to know all of your thoughts, so let me know your thoughts about Yu Mei-ren down in the comment section below. Let me know allies, craft essences, command codes, whatever you think would work on her. If you were summoning for her, I've seen a lot of people on my Twitter trying to get NP5 and even succeeding. If you are one of those people, please flex down in the comment section below and let us know how you are going to take Yu Mei-ren to the top. Gang, if you're looking to talk FGO, my Discord is always open. If you think I'm doing a good job, we redid the Patreon. You can go ahead and check that out, the link below. And you can go ahead and follow me on Twitch for when I finally get my internet situation all squared away and we can start doing more streams, dudes. Anyways, this is Kawaii50. I hope you're all having a phenomenal day, and I'll see you all in the next video.